When waking up becomes your revolution, you know what nobody tells you about kindness? That it can destroy you slowly, quietly, while everyone around you celebrates how strong you are, how selfless you are, how available you are. They hand you their burdens like you were born to carry weight that was never yours, and you take it because that's what good women do, right? That's what strong Black women do. We survive, we endure, we sacrifice, we give until there's nothing left but bones and exhaustion and a smile we've perfected to hide the screaming inside. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. I recently had the profound honor of interviewing Shamika Howard, a single mother of six who has transformed survival into something sacred, who has turned pain into purpose, and who is making the world a better place by teaching us that waking up is not just a blessing, it's a revolution. Shamika's journey from homelessness to healing, from being everyone's shoulder to finally prioritizing her own well being, is the blueprint for what happens when we stop performing strength and start practicing softness. Her story is not just inspiring, it's necessary. It's the wake up call every woman in survival mode needs to hear. Here's what Shamika taught me and what I'm about to share with you today. The world convinced us that our value lives in our availability, that being a good woman means being an open door, that strength means never saying no, that love means sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left but an empty shell, walking around pretending to be whole. And we believed it. We believed it so deeply that we became homeless while helping others pay rent. We believed it so completely that we walked the streets pregnant while our so called friends watched from warm houses with locked doors and cold hearts. We believed it so thoroughly that our own children had to beg us to choose ourselves. Our babies, who should be learning how to receive love, had to teach us how to give it to ourselves first. Shamika Howard's 15-year-old daughter looked at her mother, this woman who had survived more than most people could imagine, and said the words that flipped the script, the words that every woman in survival mode needs tattooed on her heart. She said, Mom, when are you going to stop giving everything away and keep something for yourself? 15 years old, and she saw what we refused to see. That kindness without boundaries is self destruction with a smile. That generosity without self preservation is a slow suicide dressed up as virtue. That being strong for everyone else while crumbling inside is not strength at all, it's trauma response masquerading as love. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not about becoming selfish. This is not about hardening your heart or closing yourself off to the world. This is about understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Insist your cup has been bone dry for years. You've been scraping the bottom, offering dust and calling it nourishment, bleeding yourself out and calling it love. Shamika was raised by parents who embodied true family values, discipline, respect, a home where all kids were welcomed, not just blood relatives. She learned generosity early. She learned to give. She learned to show up. But what she didn't learn, what none of us learned, was that true family values don't mean being used by fake friends. That opening your heart doesn't mean letting people ransack it. That showing up for others doesn't mean disappearing for yourself. Because here's the twisted truth that nobody wants to admit: the people who promised to support Shamika vanished the moment she needed them. The friends who cried on her shoulder, who borrowed her last dollar, who slept on her couch, disappeared when it was her turn to cry, her turn to ask, her turn to need. And the jealousy, oh, the jealousy, came not because she was materialistic or flashy or showing off, but because she dared to survive, to hustle, to keep going when they wanted her to stay stuck in the same dysfunction they were comfortable in. This is the part nobody talks about in those empowerment seminars and motivational Instagram posts. The part where your kindness becomes a target, where your strength becomes an expectation, where your survival becomes a threat to people who chose to stay comfortable in their dysfunction. They don't want you to heal. They want you to stay broken so they feel less alone in their brokenness. Shamika's story is not unique. It echoes through the lives of some of the most powerful voices in Black culture. Women who survived the unthinkable and transformed it into empire. Women who learned that saying no is not selfish, it's survival. Think about Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty in rural Mississippi, molested as a child, just like Shamika was at 8 years old. Oprah gave and gave to opportunists in her early career, poured herself into people and projects that drained her, until a breakdown forced her to cut off fake allies and build boundaries that would eventually create a $2.5 billion empire. She learned that self prioritization doesn't kill your legacy, it fuels it. She discovered that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's the foundation of everything great you'll ever build. When Oprah launched The Oprah Winfrey Show in 1986, she didn't just shatter ratings and become the highest rated daytime talk show ever. She redefined what was possible for Black women in media. She showed us that our stories matter, that our pain can be transformed into purpose, that our boundaries can build empires. Her book club boosted literacy in Black communities. Her network gave voice to stories that mainstream media ignored. And all of it, every bit of it, was built on the foundation of her learning to say no to exploitation and yes to herself. Then there's Iyanla Van Zant, raised in Brooklyn by a single mom, survived an abusive marriage, dealt with drug addicted partners, lost custody of her children, couch surfed while supporting everyone else's crises, just like Shamika did while pregnant. Iyanla's early hustle masked trauma that was eating her alive from the inside out, until eviction with her kids forced isolation and reflection, until rock bottom became the foundation she built her empire on. And it wasn't until she embraced the power of no, until she cut toxic ties and chose herself, that she channeled her story into books that became bestsellers and a television series on OWN that fixed real Black family dramas live on air. When she penned In the Meantime in 1998, it exploded onto the New York Times bestseller list because it spoke truth that Black women had been waiting to hear, that we don't have to stay in our pain, that healing is possible, that boundaries are not betrayal, they're self love in action. Iyanla shifted self help for Black audiences from victimhood to victory. She influenced therapy, access in urban communities. She showed us that our trauma doesn't define us, our response to it does. And her response was to choose herself over and over again until choosing herself became the message that saved thousands of other women. And Tyler Perry grew up in New Orleans with an abusive father, molested by relatives, homeless on the streets, betrayed by so called friends who were jealous of his play's success. Tyler slept in his car writing scripts, poured his pain onto pages while people he trusted tried to tear him down. And he built Tyler Perry Studios debt free by cutting everyone off who drained his energy, who doubted his vision, who wanted to use him without supporting him. When he debuted I Can Do Bad All by Myself in 2000, it wasn't just a play, it was a declaration, a statement that said, I survived, I thrived, and I did it on my terms. That play scaled to over $300 million in box office revenue. In 2019, he unveiled a 330-acre studio like a Hollywood conqueror, creating over 1,000 jobs for Black talent and redefining independent Black filmmaking, all because he learned to say no to users and yes to his vision. These are not just success stories, These are survival blueprints. These are proof that the moment you stop being everyone's savior is the moment you become your own. The moment you stop performing strength is the moment you discover what real strength looks like. And real strength is not enduring abuse. Real strength is walking away from it. Real strength is not suffering in silence. Real strength is speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. But let's get devastatingly real about what this costs. Because Shamika didn't just experience homelessness, she experienced it while hustling to support others. She walked the streets pregnant, her body carrying life while her so called friends refused to carry her. She battled drugs and alcohol as coping mechanisms for abuse. That started when she was a child, when innocence was stolen and survival became the only option. She became a single mother of six children, and still, she kept giving. Still, she kept showing up. Still, she kept sacrificing. This is what survival mode does to us. It convinces us that our worth is tied to our usefulness, that rest is laziness, that boundaries are betrayal, that waking up is not enough. We have to earn our existence every single day by serving everyone else first. We have to prove we deserve to breathe by making sure everyone else can breathe easier. We have to justify our space on this earth by shrinking ourselves so others have more room. And that lie, that toxic, soul crushing lie, is killing us. Shamika's daughter saw it. At 15, she saw what her mother couldn't. That waking up is a blessing. That survival is not a performance. That being alive, simply being alive, is enough. You don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to hustle for love or sacrifice for acceptance or bleed for belonging. For me nowadays, waking up is a blessing that should be enough motivation for everyone. Not waking up to hustle harder, not waking up to prove your worth to people who will never see it, not waking up to save people who won't save themselves, just waking up, breathing, existing. That is the revolution. Because when you've survived molestation at 8, abuse that rewired your nervous system, drugs and alcohol that numbed pain you couldn't process, homelessness that stripped away every illusion of security, fake friends who taught you that loyalty is rare, and raising 6 children alone while the world told you that you weren't enough. Waking up is not a small thing. It's a miracle, it's a testimony. It's a middle finger to everything that tried to break you and failed. And yet we've been conditioned to minimize it, to say, I'm blessed and highly favored, and then immediately add, so let me know how I can help you. We've been taught that gratitude requires action, that blessings require service, that survival requires sacrifice. We've been programmed to believe that our pain only matters if we turn it into something useful for someone else. No, gratitude requires presence. Blessings require protection. Survival requires boundaries. Let me tell you what happens when more people adopt this perspective. When more Black professionals and entrepreneurs like Shamika embrace the truth that kindness isn't weakness and saying no protects your grind, we'd see fewer burnout cases, stronger families, explosive success that isn't built on self destruction. No more couch surfing for others while you're homeless. No more walking the streets pregnant while your friends watch from their warm homes. No more sacrificing your mental health, your peace, your joy, your very life for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. Instead, we'd see disciplined boundaries like Shamika's parents taught. We'd see wealth multiplied because energy is protected. We'd see personal stories turn into movements that air out the real talk and change the culture. We'd see empires built not on hustle culture that glorifies exhaustion, but on self first culture that honors rest as resistance. Imagine a world where Black women said no without guilt, where we rested without explanation, where we chose ourselves not out of burnout, but out of reverence, where we understood that softness is not weakness, it's a radical act of self love in a world that profits from our pain. Shamika Howard is writing her story. She's turning her pain into a book that will help others see what her daughter saw at 15, that you don't have to earn your worth, that waking up is enough, that saying no is not selfish, it's sacred. And you, right now, you have a choice. You can keep performing strength while dying inside. You can keep being everyone's shoulder while your own burdens crush you. You can keep believing that kindness means availability and love means sacrifice. Or you can choose softness. You can choose boundaries. You can choose yourself. So here's what I need you to do, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. I want you to make a decision that will change your life. Look in the mirror tomorrow morning and say out loud, waking up is my blessing. Today I say no to users and yes to me. Then cut one draining contact, just one. The friend who only calls when they need something, the family member who guilt trips you into exhaustion, the colleague who dumps their work on you because you never say no. Cut one. And then hustle your story. Write it down, speak it out loud, share it with someone who needs to hear that survival is possible. Because your story is not just for you, it's for every woman who thinks she has to earn her existence. It's for every single mother choosing herself for the first time. It's for every Black woman who's been told that softness is weakness and boundaries are selfish. Your survival matters, your story matters, and the world is waiting to hear it. Challenge accepted, your revolution starts now.